Hello, Katie. Very happy to have you with us today. And Katie Hill is the director of BLAB Europe and is also the coordinator of BLAB's Interdependence Coalition. And I leave it to her to explain the next 5 minutes what the coalition is, what is going on, and how this can be very relevant and important for società benefit in Italy. Thank you, Katie. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Eric, and thank you for inviting me to speak here. I wish I was with you in person, but it's wonderful to have this opportunity, predominantly to thank Italians all across your country for taking on board the Società Benefit legal form with such enthusiasm and gusto. Really, this is a really pioneering thing you have done in Europe. The background to this, I think you probably know, is that BLAB really back in 2006 were the kind of the authors of what we would now call the Benefit Corporation legal form. And they introduced this because they saw, particularly in the US, but this is more of a kind of global economic issue, that there was a huge need to redress the balance of different parties who contributed to the interests of businesses. And whereas the stakeholders were really playing a second role and the shareholders were the only interest that, or the way more dominant primary interest, there was a need to put this back into some balance. And so whilst this started in the US, and now I think 48 states have adopted the Benefit Corporation legal form, in Italy, you are the only country outside the US in Europe that have actually adopted this legal form and been real pioneers in introducing it. So BLAB, I think, feels a special sort of debt of gratitude to the Italian market, to those in the financial sector who've taken this on board, where it is particularly demanding and interesting because it hugely challenges the place in the system that the investor may have had. But also to all those companies that have been taking this on board and bringing it right into their framework and their strategies. So we have, I think, what is really now a very interesting opportunity that has arisen in Europe. And it's not just actually Europe, but the European Union and the Commission have opened up a consultation on what should the future of sustainable corporate governance really look like. And the consultation document that they put out, which was closed in February this year, was a really extraordinary piece of consultation. I think all of us in the B Corp movement and probably in Benefit Corporation movement would have felt this was a really far-reaching, progressive piece of work, which was, by the way, triggered by the European Parliament and particularly by French rapporteurs in the European Parliament. And this suggested that we totally open up the way a company considers the director's duties and how they should be remunerated and how dividends should be allocated. It also looked phenomenally deeply at the role of due diligence in corporates. So we responded, the BLAB put together a coalition of different B Corps and network organizations, and we've coordinated this interdependence coalition to respond to the Commission's consultation. We are now at a critical stage. It's clearly been highly contentious. This has, I think, raised a lot of questions across Europe. One of the big questions we understand is probably, what does this do to the competitiveness of a business if you ask it to reorder the way it has to consider its duties? Is that going to create a series of costs that businesses can't manage? And our answer to that is actually no. We think this is a highly inclusive process. And when we look at the proof of concept from the B Corps, who have been outperforming both on impact and on revenue generation, we have a really good set of responses to that concern. However, this has now gone to different directorates in the Commission, and we are now waiting. We expect by December the 15th to have a proposal, which we will then all coalesce around and respond. Now, our requests from this are threefold. We have three things that we think are really important for the Commission to grasp. The first one is that they absolutely consider that the stakeholder governance of a business is mandatory across all businesses. This isn't now a voluntary sport. We see that benefit corporations have taken this on board, but it's not enough. We can't reach the absolute planetary and social limits that we are reaching if we don't change the rules of the game. So we think this has to be mandatory stakeholder governance. The second thing is it must align with the European Commission's work around what financial, sustainable finance metrics must look like. There's a lot of work going on across Europe, and I'm sure many of you are following this with the EU taxonomy and the financial investment plans. This has to be linked and connected. Otherwise, we have a different playing field for businesses as we do for the investors, which makes no sense. And the third thing is this must be pan-European. We'd love it to be global, and we think Europe can lead the way in this. But these are our three basic asks, and we think it's super important that we use the wonderful examples and energy that the Italian business community has shown. And you've really used, I think, the Società Benefit as a sort of initial step of committing this legal obligation to consider the interests of stakeholders into the business. And now I think then going on to B Corps, where you actually relate it to the performance requirement. This is really so important and so fundamental to what Europe is now needing to consider as the way to do business. So we're really keen to work with you, with all of your organizations in both the association and in the B Corp community, which I know we already do, to understand how we can elevate your examples and your experience so that this does become the template across Europe. And we're super keen to work with you on this and be real partners and understand in a laboratory type of way how we can really bring this to be much more holistic and across the board. So thank you again for listening. I just wanted to mention that what you're doing is having impact all across the world. In the stock exchange in Sao Paulo, there are now examples of the B impact assessment, which is our tool for measuring impact, and the stakeholder requirements that are now absolutely obligatory. If you want to be on the stock exchange listed in corporate in the corporate sustainability index, you have to follow these metrics. And we see this is happening in municipalities as well, that businesses are being selected on the basis of how they are governed and how they are performing. So this is the future, and you've already led us there. Thank you for all you're doing, and let's do more together.
Thank you, Katie, and we wish to have you here in person next time. We know that you couldn't make it here physically, but we feel you are here with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, bye, Katie. Thanks.